To my presentation on wheelchair basketball. I know that many of us, including myself, were not aware that wheelchair basketball was a thing in Lethbridge. So I'm very excited to make this presentation today. So the objectives of today's presentation will follow this order. First, we will look at local, provincial, and national membership, followed by frameworks of competition and eligibility, rules and equipment, origin and evolution, common strategies, simulation and accessible setting, and upcoming events. So today, wheelchair basketball is played in over 105 countries, so it is a very popular sport. It is, in fact, one of the most popular team sports for athletes with disabilities, according to the Canadian Encyclopedia 2015. In 1995, a brief history, wheelchair basketball was included as an official sport in Canada Games. We'll look at the history of wheelchair basketball shortly. So local membership. According to the Wheelchair Sports Alberta 2020, there are six teams in Alberta. The first one being, of course, where we are, Lethbridge Wheelchair Basketball Association, Inferno Wheelchair Basketball Society, which is Edmonton, Calgary Rollers Wheelchair Basketball, Calgary Grizzlies Wheelchair Basketball, Grand Prairie Wolverines, and Medicine Hat Adaptive Sport and Rec. So the Lethbridge Sport Council, in 2008, it was incorporated as a nonprofit organization and recognized by the city of Lethbridge as an independent body. And just a fun fact, in 2023, that was the 15th anniversary of Lethbridge Sport Council. In terms of provincial membership, there are 10 teams in all of Canada. First one being Wheelchair Sports Alberta, British Columbia Wheelchair Basketball Society, Saskatchewan Wheelchair Sports Association, Manitoba Wheelchair Sports Association, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, and Newfoundland and Labrador Wheelchair Sports Association as well. So I emailed the executive director of Team Alberta, and she was they were the only people that actually responded to my inquiry on membership trends, and their name was Jen Sales. And according to Jen Sales, Team Alberta organizes the Canada Games junior team that runs on a 4-year cycle. And February 2023 was the end of the cycle as Canada Games were hosted in Prince Edward Island. 5 of the same athletes returned for their next cycle, year 1 for Team Alberta, and they are starting this year with 10 athletes with hope to grow to 20 so that they can make cuts. So membership in Alberta was hugely affected by COVID-19, but has now fortunately recovered. The biggest issue that Jen Sales highlighted was the cost of equipment and the availability of equipment, especially sporty wheelchairs, because soon we're going to find out how expensive wheelchair basketball can actually be. So in terms of national membership, there is a Team Canada, which includes junior men, junior women, senior men, and senior women. In 2023, 23 athletes, 11 men and 12 women, were selected to represent Team Canada at the International Wheelchair Basketball Federation World Championships in Dubai. So a brief history about Team Canada. In 1968, men's national team competed in their first ever Paralympic Games, followed by 1972, where women's national team competed in their first Paralympic Games. In 1983, the Canadian Wheelchair Basketball League was founded. And the Canadian Wheelchair Basketball League includes 2 divisions, an open and a women's division. An open division is open to male and female athletes with and without disabilities. And the women's division only includes female athletes with and without disabilities. After that, in 1994, the Canadian Wheelchair Basketball Association was founded. And 2024, this year, was the 30th anniversary. So I just wanted to include a picture and the names of the team rosters. As you can see here, there are numbers that are listed next to the player's name, and that is called the classification. number, and we will get to that shortly. Worldwide membership. So International Wheelchair Basketball Federation is the governing body for wheelchair basketball around the world. There are currently 108 national organizations for wheelchair basketball that are divided into 4 zones: Asia, Oceania, Africa, Europe, and the Americas. According to Wheelchair Basketball Canada 2023, the Paralympic Games are governed by the International Paralympic Committee. And here I just kind of included it as a fun fact. In the most recent World Championship was in Dubai in 2022. And the Canadian women's team received 5th place, whereas the men's Canadian team received 6th place. So now on to the framework for competition and eligibility. According to the International Paralympic Committee 2016, the classification system ranges from 1 to 4.5. So 1 being the most significant impairment to activity, no trunk control, and cannot bend forward or sideways. And I should note that the classification system is based on the player's ability to pass, dribble, and shoot and perform basketball activities. So a number of 2 would indicate that they can lean forward and rotate their body to some extent. A 3 would mean that they can fully rotate and lean forward, and they cannot lean to their sides. A 4 would mean that they can lean forward, rotate, and lean to their sides to a certain extent, whereas 4.5 indicates the least impaired with no restrictions in rotation or leaning. And I should also include the fact that there can only be a total of 14 points in the starting 5. So frameworks of competition and eligibility. According to the International Wheelchair Basketball Federation 2021, they must meet both of the following criteria to compete internationally. 1, they must have the following impairments: impaired muscle power and passive range of motion, limb deficiency, leg length difference, hypertonia, ataxia, or athetosis. 2nd is meeting the sport's minimum impairment criteria, which is just an assessment of muscle power based on 3 key factors. The first 3 factors is evidence of muscle contraction, which is from a grade of 0 to 1. So grade of 0 to 1, grade 0 meaning there is no palpable or observable muscle contraction, and a grade of 1 being there is an observable muscle contraction. Resistance against gravity, which ranges from grade 2 to 3. So this is the ability to move the part through the full available range of motion. Grade 2 means the gravity is eliminated, and grade 3 means that they are doing it against gravity. 3 is resistance against manual force, which is listed grade 4 to 5. And this is the ability to move the part through the full available range of motion against gravity. Grade 4 being moderate manual resistance, and grade 5 being a maximal manual resistance. So to meet the minimum impairment criteria, they must reach a maximum of grade 2 in specific muscle groups and at least 1 leg, or grade 3 in particular muscle groups in a single leg or across both legs. And the muscle groups we're talking about here are hip flexors and extensors, hip abductors and adductors, knee flexors and extensors, and ankle plantar flexors and dorsiflexors. So what are the basic rules of wheelchair basketball? It is very similar to stand-up basketball, specifically the court dimensions, 28 meters in length and 15 meters in width, the height of the basket, which is 3.05 meters, a 24-second shot clock, and a scoring scheme. So a goal from the free throw counts as 1 point, a goal from the 3-point line counts as 3 points. There are minor changes, however, to accommodate athletes with disabilities. So these modified rules, according to the International Wheelchair Basketball Federation 2023, include the following. Players can push the reels a maximum of 2 times after picking up the ball and placing it on their lap or holding it in their hands. The player then must pass, shoot, or dribble the ball again after pushing the reel twice, or else it's considered a traveling violation and the ball is turned over to the opposing team, which is considered a turnover. They cannot use their legs to touch the surface of the floor when in possession of the ball, or else the player is assessed a technical foul. Fouls include the So in terms of fouls, the wheelchair is considered part of the player's body that is responsible for establishing contact with other players, such as blocking, screening, and charging. So in terms of equipment, you need two things to play: a sporty wheelchair and a basketball. So a sporty wheelchair, as we mentioned before, can be very expensive, and it can range from anywhere between $2,500 to $5,000. And there are specific rules to the sporty wheelchair. So the chair height must not exceed 63 centimeters for class 1 to 3 and 58 centimeters for class 3.5 to 4.5 players. And the basketball type, according to Wheelchair Basketball Canada, is the Molten's G series. And the men's size is 7, whereas the women's size is size 6. So onto the origin and evolution. In 1945, wheelchair basketball emerged from wounded World War II veterans who were being treated in hospitals located in Corona Naval Station, California, and Framingham, Massachusetts. In 1946, that was the first documented game of wheelchair basketball played by World War II veterans. And in 1949, the first national wheelchair basketball tournament took place in Illinois, USA, where 6 teams competed. 1960 was the first official games of Paralympic wheelchair basketball in Rome, Italy. 1968 was when women's wheelchair basketball at the Paralympics in Tel Aviv, Israel took place. 1975 was the first World Championships that was hosted by Belgium. In 1995, wheelchair basketball became an official sport in Canada Games. So on to the common strategies that are used in the sport of wheelchair basketball. And I have a little figure here that goes along with the strategy. So a low pointer would set a screen on the opposing team's high pointer to allow their high pointer to play against opponents with more limited movements. So as we see in the corner here, the player number 4, that has the classification system, the person with the least impairment, is matched up with the opponent's number 4. And so the player on the blue team would come and screen for the player 4, which allows player 4 on the blue team to go around that screen. And now the player 1 on the red team now has to guard the player 4, which causes an advantage for the blue team. So simulation in an accessible setting. There would be two stations, excuse me, and station 1 would be dribbling and passing. Station 2 would be shooting and rebounding. If there were 20 participants, we would have 20 classroom regular chairs, and we would need basketballs and a basketball hoop. So we would have a passing drill and a dribbling drill. In the passing drill, in partners, players are seated 5 feet apart and are asked to make 10 successful bounce and straight passes. A successful pass would be a pass that is successfully caught with 2 hands without dropping the ball. Then they progress to 10 feet apart while increasing the speed of the passes. So dribbling the ball, all the players are again seated, and the players make 1 dribble, then catch the ball, and progress to making 3 dribbles with their dominant arm first, then progressing to their non-dominant arm. Then, without catching the ball, players dribble 10 times, then switching arms as well. Now, combining those 2 skills, passing and dribbling, in groups of 3, players will form a triangle shape. Player 1 dribbles the ball twice before having to catch the ball and then passing it to either player 2 or 3. Whoever catches the ball does the same thing. They dribble twice and they pass the ball. And the activity is successful once player 1 has received the ball 10 times. Now, next, shooting and rebounding drill. Players seated near the hoop, 5 feet apart, somewhere very near the hoop, will shoot the basketball onto the board and then grab their own rebound 5 times. Then they progress to trying to score the basket into the hoop 5 times. If players are unable to reach the basket, then they can sit facing a wall and shoot at the wall instead. So to combine all these skills, I created a simulation game where players get into a team of 3 and form a triangle formation, with 1 player seated near the hoop and the other 2 seated a little further. So player 1 starts with the ball, dribbling twice and passes to player 2, and player 2 dribbles twice and passes the ball to player 3. Player 3 attempts to score the basket, which counts for 1 point. But there is a risk involved, which involves 2 points that can be rewarded if any player aside from player 3, those that are seated further away from the basket, make the basket. The team with the most points by the end of 5 minutes wins. So I just wanted to highlight the upcoming events as well. In March 2022 to 24, uh, March 22 to 24, excuse me, there is the Canadian Wheelchair Basketball League Women's National Championship in Ottawa. In March 8th to 10th, the Junior East Wheelchair Basketball Championship in Montreal. March 15th to 27th is the 2024 Junior West Wheelchair Basketball Championship in Saskatchewan. Canada is hosting the 2026 International Wheelchair Basketball Federation World Championships for men and women in Ottawa. March 5 to 9 is the ASAA South Zone Basketball Championships at Lethbridge College and Southern Alberta Interscholastic Administrative Council South, hosted at the University of Lethbridge. Paris 2024 Paralympic Games ranges from August 28 to September 2024. Thank you for listening. Here are my references.